Georgia Street, and basically the homes create a loop around there. We've illustrated some landscaping on here. You can see it's wooded around a lot of the perimeter of the property already. We're working to finalize the actual landscape plan. Each of the homes will have certain landscaping in the front yard, as well as a tree in the front yard. We're finalizing both the species and the caliber size for that. We'll follow up on the detailed landscape plan at a future time. This is a plat of the property. So you can see that, well, it's kind of hard to see in the audience, but the lot width minimum is 75 feet wide. I believe the shortest depth is just over 134 feet, but our average is well above that. So the minimum allowable is 10,000 square feet, and we comply with that. Every one of the lots, 30 feet front yard setback. So we do have sidewalks on both sides of the street here, so that would allow a car to park between the sidewalk and the garage. And then the rear yard setbacks are 20 feet, 12-yard setbacks on either side, allowing a minimum of 24 feet between the homes. But that's a 51-foot wide pad, so a lot of our homes are narrower than that, so the distance between homes generally will be a bit beyond 24 feet. This is an illustration of utilities. So the water is shown in blue. We are looping the water system, so it comes in from two directions. If there's ever a valve break or something, it won't stop the availability of water to each of the homes. So there's a little bit of off-site water line to be run off of Georgia Street, and then to the southwest side, it loops back over again. The sewer, again, we're tapping into it off of Georgia Street, and there is a little bit of off-site work to be done there to tap in, so we will coordinate with the city to make sure that we control traffic and get that coordinated in a way that it's the least impact to the community. As far as stormwater goes, that's illustrated by the green lines, and the property generally slopes from northeast to southwest. So in the upper left of this drawing here, which is the southwest part of the property, that's where the detention is collected. Rainwater almost all of the site kind of flows in that direction. There's a little bit up to the northwest. But regarding stormwater, it's been designed so that in its current state, there's a certain amount, and when it rains, water flows off, and we can calculate the amount of flow that leaves this property to the neighbors. So we've designed this so that upon completion of all the homes and the impervious coverage of the streets, we collect that in the detention pond. It acts as basically a cushion, and then we release that stormwater at a controlled rate so that the stormwater leaving the site upon completion of the community is no more than it is in its current state. One thing also to note is that we are putting sprinklers in each of the home. We have one point of ingress and egress, and there are more than 30 units here, so we've agreed to do a fire suppression system for each of the homes. So that's required upgrades to the water lines that we put in. Instead of a 3/4 inch line going in, we have 2-inch water line to each of the homes. And our consulting engineer for this system looked at this. So we have a 2-inch line going to each home. So the question is, it's not just the flow, it's the flow and the pressure. So they looked at this upon completion, and they used our largest home for the analysis, which has more volume, for suppression. And even upon completion, the volume of water and the pressure is sufficient there. So that's a big safety concern there, and we've addressed that. The next slide, please. I know traffic is a big issue, and we have our traffic engineer here who can address all the detailed concerns you you may have, but there's a few general things about this. The upper part of the picture there, you can see there's a picture of the current conditions and then the road signs that we're going to put in there and address that for safety reasons, we're making the speed limit 15 miles per hour here. We're going to have kids here, we'll make sure the cars are required to go at a slow pace through there, but the traffic study indicated that based on the current conditions and the conditions upon build out of the communities in 2029, they're projecting forward of what kind of traffic road counts per day, how it grows and how it will be affected by our community. And so no intersection improvements and no additional road improvements are required to maintain an acceptable, what they call level of service, LOS on this thing. So the traffic analysts looked at the traffic at peak times, the morning peak traffic, the afternoon peak traffic, and they did traffic counts. And then they looked at, what's called the level of service at each of these intersections, Lee Highway, Georgia Street, Lee Highway, and Overlook. Currently, the level of service for those intersections is, depending on the direction you're going, in the morning and the evening peak, it's a B or an A. It's classified, obviously A is better, but that's the level of service now, and that's actually pretty good. So it's currently a B and an A for those intersections. Upon completion of our community in 2029, the level of service is not going to change. It's still going to be B and A for each of those intersections. If you look at the wait time, it's slightly different between the direction you're going and the morning peak and the afternoon peak, but it's still just a matter of seconds, 12 seconds, 8 seconds, which equates to 2 cars at an intersection. At the peak times, most of the day it's going to be no cars or 1 car. And then the bottom row on this is our community. So how the community is going to come out onto Georgia Street, and then they analyze, whichever direction you're going to go from there. And upon completion of our community, those are both going to be classified as A level of service. So, our consultant, he's an expert. This is what he does. He's a noted traffic engineer and analyzes with the best methodology that we have, using actual observed traffic counts and projecting those based on growth projections of the region. He came up with this analysis. So this is the actual, it's not subjective. These are actual counts that we looked at to analyze what the traffic is really going to be coming out on Georgia Street there. And if you have questions on that, Robert can address those at a much more granular level. But this is important to us as well as the community. We want to know what the traffic condition really is and how we could impact that. Go to the next slide. These are some renderings of the homes that we're going to build. They're new designs, so we haven't built them yet. So these are CAD generated renderings. I don't have actual pictures of these homes because they're all brand new for this site. But they will range from 1763 square feet up to 2,800 square feet. We have 7 models. We may even add a couple of more to that. There will be a few models that are ranch as well as 2-story homes. The ranch homes, as I mentioned before, we do semi-custom, so a buyer can come in and opt to upgrade that. They might want to finish out the second floor of the ranch home, and if you look at this one, this green on the upper left, that's a ranch, but you can see with the roof structure, we do, high-pitched roofs, there's already a lot of volume of space up under that roof, so if they choose to build out up in there, it's a cheap way to add additional space to your home, and it's a good value. So I'm not sure how many people would not choose to build out that upper space, but at least it's a way to keep a price a little lower if they want to go into that. As I mentioned, they're all semi-custom, but we have dozens of options for these homes to do those interior changes. We also have at least 3 different elevations for each of these homes. So we internally have what we call a monotony code, so that you won't have the same home elevation and color combination right next to each other or right across the street. So it looks like a nice streetscape as you drive down the street, because we're controlling what that looks like. The bottom left picture here is a picture of our actual design center. If someone buys a home, they come into our design center in Louisville, and they get to make all their selections, their exterior colors, their interior colors, fit and finishes. There's I don't know if we've ever added it up, but it's thousands upon thousands of customized selections that they can do to help make the home their own for the lifestyle that they want to have and what they want to choose in their home. As far as the project goes, we would like to start earthwork as soon as possible, finish the site development, and then start building. But obviously the bulk of both the sales and the construction of the homes would go through 2027 and 2028. We anticipate selling homes at a 3 per month pace. So that gives us just under 2 years of actual sales once site development is finished, and then finish out the homes. And so really we're anticipating to wrap it all up in early 2029. You know, if sales go faster, it'll be maybe at the very end of 2028. But that's our anticipation from timeline, is that we anticipate selling about 3 homes per month. These renderings, as I've mentioned, we're finalizing the design, but they're generally craftsman style, modern farmhouse, some traditional designs based on the elevation that someone would choose. But each home will have a certain amount of brick or stone on the front on all the homes, based on the elevation that you choose. It may be, you know, almost all brick or stone on the front, but that's something that the buyer can choose what they want to do to customize their own home elevation based on the choice that they make. So that's really it. Appreciate your time today. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding, you know, the project that we propose. Because again, the property is already annexed, it is already zoned, so we're simply asking to build what we are allowed to build under that zoning code. But we're also presenting what we believe is a very nice community. They're very attractive elevations, they're nice homes, you know, and we look forward to being a big part of the fabric of City of Loudon.
Could we ask your traffic engineer a few questions?
Hey there, I'm Robert Jacks with Ajax Engineering, and I can try to answer any questions you might have.
Appreciate it. So, I assume you're an engineer. This isn't a hobby in the evening. I mean, just.
No,
I'm being respectful, but just want to clarify.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm a licensed registered
I'm an engineer too.
professional
so I understand.
engineer.
Yes, sir.
Been so for 26 years, and been out on my own for about 15, and primarily that's all I do is traffic impact studies, and I've done a lot in Knoxville, Knox County. And slowly over the past few years, I've been doing more and more in Blount County, Loudon County, Lenore City, because, you know, Knox County, it's getting quite crowded, so it's obviously expanded this way.
Right, sure. So as you take a step back and you look at this subdivision and the traffic counts, just from what was displayed, it appears that it's something that's reasonable. Can you explain what A versus B means when?
Well,
So
yeah,
it's
I mean,
level of service.
yeah, this level of service is just like a school grade, goes through A through F, you know.
Okay.
Level service A is like, there's no traffic, there's no delays whatsoever, and it's really, between A and B is really not much difference as far as delay,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it measures. the vehicle delay, and it's also based on, driver discomfort. And there's differences between level of service when you're looking at unsignalized intersections like we're doing here versus signalized. You can have to get on a side point, at signalized intersections, you can have longer delays because people, they expect longer delays at a signalized intersection. They can check their makeup, or they can check their phone illegally or something. And so they have that time. They know they're gonna have an opportunity to move at some point. So to get back to your question, there really isn't much difference between A and B. It's very good level of service. It means there's minimal traffic volumes, minimal vehicle delays.
When you look at a study like this, do you look at the width of the road?
Yeah, I did, as part of this, I did road width measurements along the entire loop of Georgia Street and Overlook Drive. And the minimum width, I believe, was about 19 and a half feet and the maximum width was around almost 21 feet. So average, it was roughly 20 feet wide pavement width around that entire loop, which gives you roughly 10-foot lanes, which is more than adequate for the existing and what's projected. Okay. Of course, a lot of times people, when they have development comes in, they want to have wider road lanes, but if you start doing that, an interstate lane is 12 foot wide, and if you start adding more pavement width, it gives them more comfortability and in effect, increase vehicle speed. So, not to say that this is too wide or too narrow, but I believe in my estimation, the amount of traffic, it's gonna be supported by what's available right now.
Thank you.
And regarding the speed on Georgia Street and Overlook Drive, there was a recommendation to lower that speed limit as well, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah, that's a good point. It's an existing speed limit is 30 miles per hour, and I did make a note in there that since it's residential in nature, I recommended the city consider reducing that to 25 miles per hour and putting also a residential plaque. Because you do have you do have a fair amount of cut-through traffic from Grimes Road, if you want to call it that. In addition to that, I recommended advanced warning road signage at all the sharp curves on Georgia Street and Overlook Drive. The existing speed limit of 30 miles per hour is really inappropriate for those horizontal curves, and it really needs some advanced warning road signs for somebody who's not familiar with the area, thinking that they can take that curve at 30 miles per hour, which they can't. So in addition to the warning signage, having advisory speed plaques, probably around 15 miles per hour, depending on what the city determines. So, yeah.
I had an additional question about your traffic study. I know it was, of course, you only have projections for the subdivision that's before us now. When I looked at the area map from a larger area, what considerations did you give for, if any, for growth outside of the community in the Grimes Road area?
That did not particularly address that in the study. I mean, the projections were based on assumed growth between now and when they projected the subdivision to be completed. I think it was 2029. So the calculations did include growth.
Also, it's an interesting thing. We have a Grimes Road's a county road that comes through a city residential area. Do you run into that very much because you work in several counties? And to me, that adds to the complexities that the citizens ought to understand, because the city doesn't have any control over county roads.
Yeah, this one would be an interesting case. I don't know I can't think of anything off the top of my head of a similar type issue that I've come across. Yeah, I mean, I guess the potential does exist for Grimes Road for more development down that way. I did drive down through there and it's, you know, it's a pretty country road, so, I guess, you know, there's always the potential for more development, some subdivision down there, and of course, they would also be wanting to come up through this area. Cause it's a pretty good, you know, Georgia Street's a pretty good route over to the highway.
That's right.
And based on the existing observations and counts, you know, the majority of the traffic is all heading north and east, back towards town, and the opposite in the morning and the opposite in the afternoon.
Thank you.
And the traffic study was just focused on Georgia Street, right, not on Overlook?
Yeah, I mean, it did do the road width measurements on Overlook, and the traffic study did look at the intersection of Overlook at Lee Highway and then Georgia Street at Lee Highway. So it took both of them into account, and they were both included in the study.
Okay.
And the Overlook Drive street intersection at Lee Highway, it's very minimal traffic
Okay.
present in the peak hours.
And the assumed growth, I mean, you guys can't project any subdivisions on Grimes Road, so the assumed projection is for just single-family homes out there through the county that would grow between now and 2029?
Well, the growth factor that was used was based on the TDOT. You know, they have locations throughout the state where they do traffic counts, annual traffic counts at various state highways and other locations. So the growth factor that I used in the study was based on the traffic count growth data from their count location on State Route, on the Lee Highway.
Sure.
And it was, I think it was 3% over 10 years, so that's what I use. I just use that same projection of 3%
Gotcha.
to grow the traffic up to 2029.
Now, this may be a question for you, sir. You may have mentioned it already. The roadway width inside the subdivision is,
It's a 50-foot right-of-way. It meets all the requirements per the subdivision rules. I believe the actual pavement width is
20 feet.
20, yeah.
20.
It's
And
24
we-
feet.
And then we have got sidewalks, or basically a landscape strip between the road and then sidewalks. So it makes for a very handsome roadway, great for families to, you know, access and walk through, while also having that landscape and that width for safety sightlines.
Okay, do you project that there's gonna be street parking allowed inside the subdivision?
I don't believe it's allowed. You wouldn't need to, because we do have driveways, and we have a setback that's deep enough for a car to actually pull into there.
Right, so you have 2 cars in the garage, and with the 30-foot setback in the front, you can put 2 cars in the driveway. So we don't anticipate, you know, a need for on-street parking.
Okay. I mean, the only reason I asked that, I live on a road where everyone's got big driveways and garages, but for some reason they still all park in the street. So, and that kind of affects, you know, for law enforcement, fire response. Let me ask you another question. So, the sprinkler systems, would they be required if this subdivision had a second entrance?
No.
Okay. Was that something that was considered where you would actually do 2 entrances into, one on the right of way that was currently dumping out onto Westlake Highway and one going onto Georgia Street?
You know, we looked at that, and there's been a lot of discussions with staff about how we would access that other place. There's like 3 different things that all come together, and the ownership and the right of way and how it all would work with a very acute angle, you know, working with staff. This seemed like a better solution. We've got one point of ingress and egress, but, you know, for fire and safety reasons, we're putting sprinklers in the home. Yes, this is a lot more expensive, you know.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yeah,
was there
I
a
mean,
cost
it's
analysis
a
done?
lot more expensive to do this, but overall, working with staff, it seemed like the best solution. I'll give you an example. The sprinkler system within the house itself, $10,000 per home. Then we have to run additional pipe from it, but also instead of using a 3/4 inch valve meter, which is $600, we had to use a 2 inch, which is $4,700 per home. So you add all that together, it's, it's $18,000 per home extra. So, but it just seemed like the best solution in terms of how we put the community together, satisfaction, fire and safety, all these reasons add together, and, and this was staff's recommendation as well.
We required that since there was only one entrance, that would need to be the configuration of the subdivision. If that was, again, just a singular entrance, that's the option. Essentially from there is to, you to provide two entrances or you provide the fire suppression system.
Okay, and you may not know the answer to this question, but just out of curiosity, at $8,000 per home, 67 homes?
68 homes, yeah.
68 homes.
Yeah.
What was the estimated cost for the additional or the single entrance coming off of Wesley Highway into the subdivision, do you know?
Gee, we're talking about- we have-
So, yeah.
I know I'm throwing
I don't
like
even know if we can
curveballs
price it out,
at you
but,
here.
a little section of road, a lot less than $15,000 per home times 68 homes.
Yeah.
Right, this section going out to the highway, unfortunately, is not an incredibly viable option, nor is it, requested by, municipality. When we think about, that's gonna be a dead straight, 50-foot wide, half-mile long section of road, coming off the highway. One, the connection to the highway is not great. Two, this creates issues with utilities and future maintenance issues when this right-of-way is dedicated to the municipality. On top of the other aspects of, this is a dead straight road, we don't have a ton of width. It's gonna require retaining walls, it would require portions of the road to be graded at 16% grade, which I know you guys are familiar with, that's just not an acceptable, curve, a vertical curve for a subdivision. On top of that, it would have to be lit, so all of the homes that would have let that would basically lose their privacy. You'd have a road going in through their backyard that then has lighting and cars, and that would not be a great solution either. Healthy neighborhoods don't have half-mile long straight roads accessing them. So it really is our only option to come on to Georgia.
Okay.
So one
On
question.
on that road that he just spoke about, did you have a cost estimate that it would cost you all to fix that?
No, and you're really talking about if we use a totally different entrance off that long flag, you're talking about a second emergency point of ingress and egress for a different spot. If you're talking about that long road that she was addressing, no, we didn't look at the cost for that. But like you mentioned, it's a 16% grade. How do you serve a residential subdivision with that? And there's a 50-foot right of way, which dealing with that, we would have slopes, which would push us out beyond that, so you'd have to build it with retaining walls. That would ultimately be a public road that's half-mile of road that, the city would have to maintain, not just the road, it's retaining walls, it's the lighting element. It just didn't seem viable. We didn't price that out, and I thought initially your question was, can we find a second point of ingress and egress as an emergency? But no, we didn't price out that long road because we just eliminated it as a viable option, just due to the grades and the width of the road, the width of the right of way that we have, so.
I wanted to add one thing, I guess for anything that's proposed for signage or changes for Outlook or Georgia Street, would the developer provide those improvements for
Sure,
the signage?
fine, absolutely, yes.
As well, we also agreed to trim back those trees, things like that to improve sight lines.
I have a question for staff. Did you find any other compliance issues with the plan that's submitted?
All city and utility departments reviewed and commented on the plans. The developers responded to any comments, for compliance.
Any other questions that I could answer?
Don? On the other one, Victor?
Yeah, got asked Doug this, and I wish I'd have heard this before I spoke, but anyway, and with all due respect, you know, we're not really concerned about the houses, how they're built or anything else. I don't think that really concerns us in Green Acres. But what concerns us, or I think it does, is all this additional traffic, but what about all the utilities going down Georgia Street? How's that gonna affect our utilities as they are now? We're probably strained as it is, I don't know, that's my guess. You know, bringing in all this extra utilities, how's that gonna, you know, seems like to me that would strain our water flow, or sewage and everything else. And also, you know, they talk about how nice their roads are gonna be, sidewalks and curbs. We don't have any of that. That's what we're concerned about, is the safety of the people out there. We don't have sidewalks to walk on. Our roads are falling apart now as they are. No curbs, nothing. And I think the gentleman over here brought it up, and they said that they were gonna do something, because it was not mentioned before, except for myself. The Gill Street and Terrace Drive coming out on Georgia Street are both blind spots. You cannot see. Coming out of Terrace Drive, you can't see the cars coming up the hill. Coming out of Gill Street, you can't hardly see them coming down the hill, because they're usually doing 40, 45 miles an hour. You pull out, nothing coming, you pull out, bang, there they are. And then also there's a tree on the corner of Gill Street towards the highway, which blocks the view. And you literally have to pull halfway out on the street to be able to see if traffic's coming. It's bad enough with the existing traffic, but when that traffic doubles or triples, whatever it's gonna be, it's just gonna be worse.
Is anyone here from LUB to talk utilities? Or I'm assuming LUB has looked at it.
They reviewed all the plans, and
Okay.
obviously they would have mentioned if there was gonna be issues with being able to provide service, and so.
Okay.
And so part of their evaluation is full utility evaluation.
Yep.
And they had no issues, or
No,
It
they
wasn't
went through
mentioned.
review, and they gave comments through one of the versions of the plans, and then they gave approvals to a set of plans.
thank you.
There would also be, for extension of utilities, a TDEC, Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation review, and approval, so that utility developer would submit those plans to the state, and the state would review as well.
So at this point, all staff comments, recommendations, everything has been picked up and is included in this plat?
The latest set of plans
Yes.
have been addressed all comments that we have.
Okay.
That's why community planning commission.
I was just checking and making sure.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a comment and then make a motion. I certainly appreciate the narrowing of focus by the citizens that live there. I have one personal exposure to Green Acres 25 years ago. My wife and I missed out on buying a house because we didn't make an offer quick enough. Somebody on an open house on a Sunday made an offer before we did. It's a great community, great citizens, and please keep attending public meetings in the future. I did go back after December to look up the history of Green Acres, and it grew out of property owned by the Carter family that everybody that's older remembers who they were, Carter Lumber Company. When they built it, it wasn't even called Green Acres at the time. But it went before a planning commission. It was, the Loudon Planning Commission approved engineering drawing, and they had no real details that we require today. It was done in 1962. The interesting thing to me was Georgia Road was a boundary that bordered additional property that they owned. They were anticipating that the other side of Georgia Road would be developed as a second phase, and the Carter family never did that. They'd owned the property all around behind. The other thing I found from the plat, I wondered how Grimes Road ever came into existence. It wasn't on the original plat. 2.5 lots from the plat were changed later to allow Grimes Road to enter into the top of the subdivision. I don't have a year when that occurred, but there wasn't a connection when the subdivision was done. Another interesting thing was objections were made to the subdivision being developed because at that time it was considered urban sprawl, which is a negative term, because you saw where the downtown was. In our education, we've learned that urban sprawl creates problems, and it creates problems because you can't envision what the future's going to have that goes on right next to you when you have a thing that far from an existing development. So I think that compounds part of this, the problem. The Planning Commission is empowered to, or asked to, make impartial decisions that listen to citizen comments and listen to staff input and studies. And we're asked to be fair to everybody, and that's a tough thing to do. But the city council makes all the rules, and the rules are the regulations that we evaluate. I think from everything I can see, this request complies with those. I certainly understand. On my trek 25 years ago, our only negative for Green Acres that we saw on our trip, and we just passed this off as I went up Georgia Street and about saw a wreck by a go-kart that came off that top road down to Georgia Street on the wrong side of the road. It didn't nearly hit me. It hit a car. It about hit a car in front of me. It made me mad just as an individual, and it cut across somebody's road, and I tried to follow it because I was going to go to the house and say, why are you letting your child do this? But I never saw that. So I know that that or walking or biking is tough up there. But anyway, with that background said, I'm prepared to say that it appears that the developer has submitted a plan. I'm real glad to see the traffic study because I wasn't sure what it would show. And I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plan as written. And I'm sorry for being wordy, but I do appreciate y'all being here.
Good, well said.
I second Clayton's motion. I feel like we have rules that we have to kind of fall under, and I feel like subdivision has followed those guidelines and rules and the requests of the city, and I don't see a reason how we could deny it at this time.
We have a motion and a second to approve this preliminary plat as is. Can I please get a roll call vote?
Dennis Brennan,
Yes.
Clayton Pangle,
Yes.
Brandon DeVore,
Yes.
Kevin Bookout is absent, David Mears,
Yes.
Pam Carey,
Yes.
Tim Dixon,
No.
Scott Wilson is absent, and Tim Henley is absent, Abigail Alfhouse.
Yes. Thank you, everyone who spoke on that. For the second item of new business, we have application 240, site plan review for the Matlock Bend substation. Applicant is Loudon Utilities Board, property owner is the City of Loudon.
Yeah, so, we had, one of the LUB representatives, was gonna speak to this today. They're out sick, so, Aubrey Cagle and I, Director of Engineering and Planning for the Utilities Board, will kind of speak to this item. In general, it's brought to you, to satisfy Tennessee code. You all in the city council have a city plan. You have a land use plan, and you also have a major road plan. Those two things decide and plan what goes where in your city. And so any public works project, whether that's a electrical substation, or community center, any kind of public fixture, of that nature needs to come before you. So really what we're reviewing today is the location and the extent of what's being proposed. It is an electrical substation off of Corporate Park Drive. There's an exhibit on the screen there. In the top middle of the page, that's an existing substation. And this is I guess a modernization and an expansion project. And so we're here to bring that before you and answer any questions that you may have. The city, to speak to the location of it, the city purchased this property for the purpose of installation.
Does anyone have any questions?
What voltage is this?
So currently, the one being fed is on the 69 system. We are nearing capacity on the 69 system, and so what we will be building here is a 161 feed, helping alleviate our current 161 to 69 feed.
Is this gonna be out on 72 there?
No, this is actually going to be across, we have a substation already across from Morgan also.
The newer substation, to handle this additional load, will that, mean additional lines will have to be run into this location, or how does that work, just to educate us a little bit?
So due to the construction of the existing, we will have minimal additional lines coming out of here. We will rework all the current lines to tie into the new substation. But at this time, we are not planning on additional circuits along Corporate Park. Now, we will have the capacity for future needs, to go out to 72 to, help with the load that we're seeing, both residential and industrial and commercial in that area.
So at this time, you would not require additional right of way
No, sir.
with any of this?
No, we would tie into all existing lines.
Sure.
I do have one other question. Where it is Corporate Park Drive, I can't tell, my eyes won't let me tell how wide that is and what that allows from a traffic standpoint.
So what we are trying to do with this, as well as facilitate, you can imagine that this is very large equipment. So we're looking at the turning radius there. I think it's about 150 feet wide. We're working, one of the things that we wanted to relay to you today is that we wanted to review the location and the size of this thing. You know, we want to show you where it's going to be, how it may impact the community, and the larger picture of the questions that you're asking about right of way and other things. So what we're currently working with LUB is to finalize the design of this, to try to model the equipment that they're going to need to turn on to this driveway and replace equipment. I think sometimes you may need to do that, replace transformers and other things. Is that correct?
Yes, so the transformers require, special equipment, obviously to not only transport them, but also cranes to set them. And we have to prepare for a replacement should we ever need one. So the turn radius there takes that into consideration.
And the zoning of this property is
M1,
M1.
and this is a permitted use in that zoning district. It's a public utility, so it is permitted.
But what I appreciate is that LUB's being proactive. You're getting close to the limit. You're not 3 years of being over the limit, so good job.
Audrey, this is all wooded here, isn't it, right now?
A portion of it, probably about half of the graded area is wooded, but it also will be using that open, area as well. But it's about half and half.
Will there be any natural barrier left, kind of shield from the roadway, or would it all be open?
We will not, I don't know for the actual driveway on, turn around the north side. I do not think we will clear everything around that dry branch. But there will be a pretty good clearing around that driveway entrance because the circuits will come out through there. So we have to maintain our right of way with.
And that clearance is as you're coming from Lighthouse Point towards 72, or the opposite?
Where we would be clearing,
That's already clear, that doesn't have any natural. Did you say that, I think this, which one's north and which one's south? I just wasn't sure.
it's actually
North, okay,
positioned that way currently, yes.
Okay.
So where that driveway is and around that driveway, entrance is wooded right now. You can see that opening gap in the property, and then you can see the woods going kind of up the hillside, because there is a slope, when you're looking at this on, I guess, the east side.
You can see the existing substation now from the road.
It is just a little bit further up. You actually access that from the driveway into Morgan Olson.
I do have a question. The property across the street from the intersection, I focused several questions there, but I have a reason for doing that. But across the road, is that the back side of the mushroom plant?
I believe it
Honda
is.
is the
It's
closest.
fine.
I was gonna say, Honda is the closest.
Is it Honda's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's-
I couldn't remember which track that was. I think this is a great plan that they presented, so I don't have any trouble with that. I know that we've talked about a future land use planning thing for the future, and the reason I asked about the access and everything was mainly that property's still sitting there vacant across the street there. Whether Honda has plans or whether they sell it off for other things that would naturally be probably the other thing, but I would like for the staff to remember this when we go through the big planning step and look the other way, back toward the interstate, on the other side of this big piece of property, because our problem is traffic flow that may be generated at the 72 entrance. If you look at the bigger picture, we have a congestion problem at 72. And I can see possibly accessing some of this other open property if it became available on a plan, being served better by going to Corporate Park Drive to avoid the coming out. Those tie into small little tie-ins that feed down the River Road, and then they would be dumping out right where the hotel is on that side on the hill. So I think that might be worthwhile to look at in the future. But I think you've covered everything for this plan.
I'll make a motion, be approved.
I'll second.
All right.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Can I please get a roll call vote?
Dennis Brennan,
Yes.
Clayton Pangle,
Yes.
Tim Henley's absent, Brandon DeBoer,
Yes.
Kevin Bookout's absent, David Mears.
Yes.
Ham Carey,
Yes.
Tim Dixon.
Yes.
I believe it passes.
Are there any other committee reports, staff reports, or reminders?
Oh, I do have something. We're gonna have a BZA next month. And we're gonna have a variance. We have changed on the portal for variances that there are now questions that the applicant has to answer to give reasons why they're applying for a variance. So basically, there are hardships that that they're reasons for needing a variance. So you're gonna get those answers as part of the staff report you get from us, so they have to provide those answers. So I'm just letting you know that this is that first time that you're gonna see them answering those questions.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good move. Thank you.
Is
It's
that it?
not planning commission, but it's BZA and you're all here. Yep, you have to do it again.
Roll call again for your last motion, I forgot you.
Okay.
Dennis Brennan,
What's the question?
roll call again, I forgot Abigail in the roll
Oh.
call.
Yes.
One more time for me. Dennis Brennan,
Yes.
Clayton Pangle,
Yes.
Brandon DeBoer,
Yes.
David Mears,
Yes.
Ham Carey,
Yes.
Tim Dixon,
Yes.
Abigail Allhouse,
Yes.
Oh, good.
Tim Henley,
were concerned.
Scott Wilson, and, Tim is, absent, yes.
We'd be
Excellent.
so confused later.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right, if that is it, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Do we have motion to adjourn?
Great job. This is my first time here with you at the dinner.
Thank you.
Gentlemen,
Well, Melissa.
see you guys later.